I tried to give him one last hurrah. I tried to be a good Cowboy fan, even though, as you know, I don't believe in this team. I went ahead and picked this team. I pounded the table for this team to go win a game that felt to me like a must-win game. I said they're going to beat the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara this time. Cowboys coming off a bye. Cowboys have obviously played much better on the road than at home. And the 49ers were reeling coming off their loss in the Super Bowl rematch to Kansas City. They don't have Christian McCaffrey, and they lost Ayuk for the rest of the year. And Brock Purdy was coming off the worst game of his professional career, and I thought he would struggle in this game, and did he ever for a while? And was I ever all over him on Twitter, X, for a while? Was I all over him on social media for a while? But I needed my team to win just to stay relevant, because I'm looking down the road at Atlanta this coming Sunday, Philly at home, I'll get to them in a second, Houston at home, and then guess what? At Jaden Daniels at Washington. I don't like their chances in that game either. So my Cowboys came out. I inspired them. They came out and played their best first half of this football season, which has been pretty bad, so that wasn't all that great. But they did. They played their best first half. They held Brock Purdy and company, even without weapons, to 6 total points in the first half. They led 10-6 at halftime, and it should have been worse. It easily could have been 17-6 at halftime, but it wasn't. It was just 10. And I'm assuming that everybody just sat around and ate ham sandwiches, or maybe they celebrated at halftime. We did that. It's over. We're good. We showed everybody we can actually play a decent half of football at San Francisco, and they did. I don't know what Mike McCarthy was doing. He probably doesn't do anything at halftime because he is the single worst pregame, halftime motivator I have ever closely observed. I guess he and they just decided, we're good. That's enough. And they came out and stunk in the third quarter even worse than they have stunk at home in 4 straight games at Jerry World. They got blown off the field in the third quarter, 21-0. San Francisco had 167 total yards in the third quarter alone, to a grand total of 16 for Dak Prescott and company. 167 yards to 16 in the third quarter alone. And then, as I always predict, as I always say, Dak Prescott, master of the fourth quarter garbage yards, here he came, giving us all a little bit of false hope. A little bit of fraudulent maybe. And they fought back, and they blew a coverage and let CeeDee Lamb completely loose in the end zone for a touchdown. Then 2 49ers ran into each other and let CeeDee Lamb completely loose on a touchdown pass. And all of a sudden, it got all the way back to 30-24. And Dak did throw one very good late ball that would have extended the game. I don't think they would have won, but it would have extended the game. A deep ball to Turpin, once the USFL MVP as a receiver, but mostly as a returner. And this kid's been a bust at receiver because, weirdly, he can catch punts and kickoffs that he faces up that come down into his breadbasket with nobody around him. He can do that just fine. But on downfield throws that go over his shoulder, he can't find and track them. He basically can't catch. He didn't really come close to catching this ball over his shoulder along the deep sideline. 30-24 stood. Dak missed his last 4 passes, though that one should have been caught. And the Dallas Cowboys have fallen to 4-4 as they approach my prediction of 8-9. And I say approach because I'm not sure they can get to 8-9 now. I think I wildly overestimated them at miss the playoffs 8-9. They're 4-4. I'm sorry, 3-4. I'll get this right. They're 3-4, and I predicted 8-9. And I'm looking down the schedule, and even I gave you the schedule up to Thanksgiving. They do get the Giants at home on Thanksgiving. You would think they could win that. They still get to play Carolina. You would think they could win that. But I didn't mention they have to go to Philadelphia, and then they have to play Washington, obviously, again. Still have to play Joe Burrow. Still have to play Baker Mayfield and the Bucs for what that's worth. I'll get to him in just a moment. But where's this team going when it can't run the football a lick? I mean, I'm looking at these numbers, and I was hard on Brock Purdy, though I love Brock Purdy. And I always say he had two of the most sensational first 2 years this side of Tom Brady as Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, how did Brock Purdy snap out of his slump in the third quarter? He started running the football, escaping, gashing the Dallas Cowboy defense. In fact, he wound up with 56 yards rushing for the game. My team in total had 56 rush yards. 56 rush yards. I first guessed this. I said, we will have the worst running back room in pro football. And I didn't even know we were going to go get Dalvin Cook. They resurrected him up off the practice squad for last night. He carried 6 times for a grand total of 12 yards. Zeke, I'll say it again, my nose runs faster than Zeke at this point in his career. He's, as LeBron would say, washed. He's done. He's shot. Blast from past that is way past its prime. Look what Zeke did. He had one great run last night. It was the best run, as I tweeted, that he's had in 2 years. It was for 11 yards. He had a grand total of 34 yards. So if you subtract the 11, he wound up with 9 for 23. That's 2.6 a try. That's pathetic. My team as a whole averaged 2.9 yards per try. That's impossible to win with. I'm sorry. I'm watching the man that Jerry Jones made the highest paid player in the history of pro football, Dak Prescott. And now I've seen him play 4 straight games and 4 straight losses against San Francisco, and he's averaged 2 interceptions a game for 4. That's 8 total interceptions. And he can't run anymore. He's completely immobile. He's statuesque. Even when he's dared to run, even when the defense breaks down and he has an opening to run. He used to be a running quarterback. I used to love him. I used to campaign for him in the old days on First Take when he was at Mississippi State in his junior year when they rose to number 1. He was a flat-out running quarterback, a dual threat. I don't know what's happened to him, but Jerry gave him all that money, the most money ever, at a stage and age in which he can't run an inch. So Brock Purdy ran his way out of his slump, and we took a shot to the jaw in the third quarter, 21-0 because of Brock Purdy, and Dak can't run a lick? Are you kidding me? We can't run, and now we can't hide. We have nowhere to hide. We are rotten to the core. We are devoid of leadership at head coach and at quarterback. And there are times I watch Dak's body language, and it just seems so unurgent to me. It seems so without fire to me. It seems actually to border on without desire to me. I asked myself last night, especially in the third quarter, does Dak really care? He's got it down to a science where when the game's completely out of hand and you're down 27-10 and it's over, then you go master of fourth quarter garbage yards and you pad your stats and everybody can say, look, Dak's thrown for X yards and this and that. He hasn't done it this year because, what is he, 10 touchdowns to 8 interceptions this year? 22nd in QBR this year? It's just hard to watch. It just tears me apart because I first guessed all of it. They are dead men walking because their quarterback is the opposite of a leader, of a fire starter. He's a fire douser with his body language. And he's the highest paid in all of pro football. And Chris Collinsworth tore me apart at the end of the broadcast last night by saying, defending Dak, well, they had no choice. They had every choice in the world. Look what San Francisco did. Jimmy G was their quarterback and got them all the way not only to the Super Bowl, but into the fourth quarter of that Super Bowl, the first one that Mahomes played, all the way into the fourth quarter, 8, 9 minutes left in the game. They're up 20-10 with Jimmy G at quarterback. And because he fell apart in the fourth quarter, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch just said, that's enough. We want to actually get to and win a Super Bowl, and they decided they couldn't do it with Jimmy G. So they gave 3 first-round picks to trade up for Trey Lance. And then they felt like they had swung and missed at Trey Lance. But that was easy to conclude because Brock Purdy fell out of the sky into their laps with the last pick in the next draft, obviously. And here they went with Brock Purdy. And that was the correct decision. I know I was so hard on Brock Purdy last week, but you can ask my producer, Tyler Korn, about this. We actually had a question that we were going to hold, question from last week about, can we trade Dak? Well, obviously he's got a no-trade clause now, and I came up with one fantasy trade in the bottom of my soul, the back end of my psyche, and I thought, is it possible that at some point, if Brock Purdy continues to struggle, that Kyle and John Lynch would say, I don't know, maybe we swung and missed here. Would it be possible they would take a 30-year-old Dak, and what's he into now, his 9th year? Would they take him and say, well, Dallas has screwed him up. He's way better than he's been able to play in Dallas because it is just such a mess there. It's such a comedy of errors. It's so dysfunctional. Is it possible that they would take Dak in exchange for Brock Purdy? Because I would take Brock Purdy in a heartbeat over Dak Prescott. Is it possible that Dak would say, sure, I will okay a trade to San Francisco just to change scenery, start over, start fresh with a winning organization? Please, God, give us Brock Purdy. Other than that, we're just dead men walking through the rest of a schedule that's only going to get worse and worse.